Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Tim. I bring you villages related content. And in today's video, I'm going to bring you a cottage home and whether you should pay off the bond or not. I will show you two amortization schedules. If you purchase a cottage home with a $41,000 bond, I'll show you what the amortization schedules look like if you pay the bond off at the time you purchase the home, or if you keep the bond and make annual payments to the villages. But first, I wanted to explain what the Villages is. It is a 55 plus community located in Central Florida. It's the safest community in the state of Florida. It's also the fastest growing metropolitan area in the nation. And if you see any homes on this video today, you will need to contact a Villages sales representative if you're interested. First, I will show you a brand new cottage series home located in the village of Ocala. This is the newest cottage home neighborhood. And I had a viewer who asked a question, could you show me what it costs if you pay a bond off on this home or if you don't pay the bond off? I did create amortization schedules in Microsoft Excel. I'll show you what the total interest and administration costs are if you pay the home off after 15 years and after 30 years. But first, I wanted to show you a few of the pictures of this home. This is a cottage series home. It is located in Unit 180V. List price, $327,053. 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,448 square feet. Let's take a look at the bond. Unit 180V. Total bond amount is $41,847.25. 4.72% interest rate. Annual payment $2,768 and some change. And for those new to the channel, the bond is infrastructure costs that the developer passes on to the home buyer. It allows the home buyer to pay it off all at once or over 30 years' time. If you do pay it off over 30 years' time, you will be paying interest and administration charges. And in this case, if you pay it off over 30 years' time, you'll be paying in a total of $35,707.14 in interest, $5,480.28 in administration fees. So we are going to take a look at paying the home off, or actually paying the bond off before you buy the home, or financing the bond at the time you purchase the home. Let's take a look at the bond amortization schedules in two scenarios. Here I have two different tabs in my Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. This tab is if you pay the bond off at the time you purchase the home. This tab is if you don't pay the bond off. And that's what most villagers do when they purchase a home. They do not pay the bond off. They do not finance paying the bond off. And if you notice the bond, it has 4.72% interest. And I'm going to assume in this scenario a mortgage of 6%. And the first scenario shows that you purchased the home for $327,053 and you pay the bond off $41,847. So the total all-in cost $368,900 and some change. I'm assuming you're going to put 10% down payment on the home and you're going to finance the rest. So essentially you're going to be financing in this scenario $332,010 and some change. I'm assuming 6% interest. I set up this amortization schedule for 30 years' time. I'll also look at what the costs will be if you decide to pay the home off after 15 years' time. So in this case, your monthly payment on your mortgage is $1,990.57, 6% interest. And that includes financing the $41,000 bond through your financial institution. This is your amortization schedule that I set up. It's each month. As each month goes by, you're making principal and interest payments. This is the total payment amount, which will match that as well. So let's take a look at the first scenario. You purchase the home, you finance the bond with your mortgage company, and you start making payments. Let's take a look after 30 years' time what your total payments will be after 360 payments. Your total interest paid in after 30 years' time is $384,594.63. Your total principal that you paid in is the exact amount of your original loan, $332,010. And we can verify 332, and that's going to equal your total amount financed. So that's your first scenario. When you finance your bond, you are going to pay equal payments for 30 years, and this is the total amount that you'd be paying in. Let's take a look at this next scenario. Let's say you buy the same home, but you do not pay the bond off, that you finance the bond through the villages and you make annual payments to the villages of your bond. This is the total all-in cost that you're going to finance with your bank. This is your 10% down payment. This is the total amount financed. Notice it's $294,000 versus financing $332,000, and the difference is the bond amount. So here your monthly payment for your mortgage is $1,764 and some change. Your monthly payment on your bond is going to be $230.58 for your bond. And essentially what I did was I looked at the bond amortization schedule, I looked at your annual payment, and I divided it by 12. So your total monthly payment, if you choose to have the villages finance the bond and not pay it off, $1,995.35. Here's your amortization schedule. You're financing $294,000 at a 6% interest rate. I'm just assuming that because that's what my subscriber asked me to do. And let's take a look at the amount of interest you're going to be paying in this scenario. After 30 years' time, you'd be paying in $340,967.05. But you're also paying the bond amount. The interest on the bond is $35,707. And if you look at the amortization schedule here, you'll see the $35,707. That's the total interest you're paying in on the bond. You also have bond amortization fees, $3,480, and I pulled that right off of this as well, $5,480. And I just made a mistake, so let's correct that error. $5,480. Let's take a look. So now you're looking at total interest and administration fees that you paid in over 30 years' time of $382,154. And that is if you only finance the home and you do not pay the bond off. So let's take a look at the first scenario where you do pay the bond off. Let's take a look at 15 years' time. Let's assume that after 15 years' time, you just pay your mortgage off. In this scenario, you already paid the bond off when you purchased the home. You paid in $262,181 and some change, and you already paid in $96,120.80 in principal. This is 180 payments. This is after 15 years' time. Back to this scenario. This is the scenario where you don't finance the bond. You do not pay the bond off. After 15 years' time, after 180 payments, you are paying in a total of $232,440.31 in interest. You also paid in $24,595 of bond interest. You're also paying in $2,740 of administration on the bond, and I just pulled that off of the bond amortization schedule. I essentially added 15 years of those numbers up. So let's take a look. $259,775 is what you would end up paying in interest and administration charges for both your mortgage and your bond after 15 years' time. This results in a savings of $2,406 over financing the bond. So let's take a look at the first scenario. This is if you finance the bond, you're paying in a total of $262,181. You compare the $262,000 to the $259,775, and there is a small savings if you finance the bond through the villages. And the reason there is a savings is because the bond interest rate is 4.72%. And essentially what you're going to do, if you pay the bond off and finance it with a mortgage, you're going to essentially replace the 4.72% with 6% interest. You're also paying this administration fee, but that administration fee does not make up for the difference in interest rate between the bond and the mortgage. So the moral of the story is, if you finance the bond, you're going to be paying in a little bit more, assuming your mortgage is 6% interest. And just to compare, if you look at paying the bond off when you purchase the home, you're paying off $384,000 versus $382,154. So even after 30 years' time, you're still saving about $2,000 if you let the villages finance the bond at a lower interest rate, 4.72%. So if you pay the bond off over 30 years, or if you pay it off after 15 years, it's still less expensive not to finance the bond at the time you purchase the home. I hope I clarified things. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. Feel free to share the video with anybody you feel is interested in this content.